Hello and welcome to the Passion Show. My name is Phil and joining me as always is my co-host Kyle.
Hello.
And this week we have a very special guest, Kiayah.
Hello.
So in today's episode, we're talking about football. I'm not that big on football. I haven't really got a masculine card that subject, but Kiayah is an enormous fan of football.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as Kyle. I used to go to the match of avidly. I had a season ticket for years, but in recent years I've sort of grown out of it, not got into it as much, so I'm out of the loop basically. But that's why Kiayah's here to give us a fresh perspective and maybe teach us some things about football.
I'll try my best.
So, as always, we'll sort of take it back to the start. If you can give us, where, this love for football came from. Is it, your childhood?
Yeah, pretty much. So, my mum and dad are both massive, massive football fans, and they're both massive Liverpool fans. So, I grew up with, football, and when the match was on, being quite an event in the house, or we'd go to the pub and watch it when I was little and that. And I saw the people around me getting, so excited and so into it and that. So, I just kind of learnt from that. As a kid, I'm quite the opposite to you, to be honest. I haven't been to loads of matches, and as a kid, I liked it, but I didn't really understand what was going on. Whereas as I've grown older, I've got, really into it and, the tactics, and I get more excited about it now.
So it sort of came to you with age, basically?
Yeah.
Because what used to be sort of a fun thing that'd pop up every now and then is a real, serious thing you sort of get into now.
Yeah. I've got a memory of when I was younger. It was Liverpool versus Man U, which is always a big game, and we scored, and my dad jumped on this little trampoline I had in my living room and onto one of my toys and broke the toy, but neither of us were bothered because we were so excited that Liverpool had scored. So that's just that exemplifies exactly how exciting it always was.
Yeah.
So you're a Liverpool fan?
Yes.
So that kind of contrasts with me because I'm an Everton fan and I always went to the Everton match for years and years. So I kind of saw the reason why I'm not as enthusiastic about football anymore is because I saw both sides of the joyful side and also the quite hateful side from multiple teams. So what do you think of the sort of perception of football that it can be quite violent, I guess?
It's quite disappointing, really. Obviously there are extremists in everything, every single sport and hobby and everything. There are always bad people. There are bad people everywhere. So it's frustrating that that's what gets the spotlight kind of thing. There are annoying people, there are annoying football fans, and it has sort of created a lot of hatred. I was brought up to hate Manx and now I live here and love them, and I know that there's nothing wrong with anyone, but I think you kind of miss out on how much joy it actually brings. And for me especially, my mum and dad aren't together, but it was the only time in my childhood that they would come together and we'd all watch the match together. So for me it's really, really extreme joy, because it was how I got family time and that, and it does that for loads of people, dads take their sons to
that was my thing.
Football matches. Exactly.
Yeah, that was my time to spend with my dad, because he'd take me to the Everton match and we'd have a few hours every week just for me and him. So that's why I think a lot of people will get attached to it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's quite a familial thing. You tend to support whoever your dad supports and that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, unfortunately, I got lumped in with Everton.
That didn't really happen to me because I grew up, when I was a baby, they'd buy Everton tops for me. But then I got a Liverpool top bought for me as a joke when I was about 4 and I stuck with it.
Oh my god.
And my mum and dad are massive Everton fans. It used to be my dad that was more so, but now it's my mum. And my mum's now an admin for all these Facebook banter pages for Everton. It's hilarious that I'm a Liverpool fan, but I don't follow football, so I'm not really.
My mum actually did the same. She all of our extended family, all her my aunties and that, support Everton, and her dad supported Everton, and she grew up until she was about 6 supporting Everton, and then genuinely went, they lose all the time and the other ones don't, and supports Liverpool instead. And now she's a massive Liverpool fan. Yeah,
I came out better from it.
That blows my head off, that you can just flip sides so easily.
I was too young for it to be a conscious decision.
Yeah.
I think even when I was young, I understood how much it meant to me dad, so I wouldn't have dreamed of not that you can't switch sides or whatever, but you can choose whoever you want at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think because my dad was so into it, it sort of it made me excited for it. But so have you been to many actual matches?
I've been to like a few. We've never had like a season ticket or anything.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah.
expensive, but I've been to a few. The first one I ever went to, my dad was all excited to take me and like, you know, getting excited to go to the match, and it was against like some crap team, and the score was 0-0, and like nothing happened for the whole match. It was freezing. It was like December.
I remember my first game. I can't remember how old I was, but it was against Middlesbrough, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
won 2-1, and Kevin Campbell scored both goals, I think. So afterwards we went to the Everton shop, and I got Campbell on my shirt with a 9. So that's my story of football.
I bought my mum tickets for Christmas to the Liverpool Legends match we were playing, like, I don't know, like Milan or something. It's a charity match they do every year, but the reason I brought it, because they have all the old players, like Gerrard and like Rush and that, and when we went to that, it was like last March, it was 5-5 the score, so I got to
Oh my
see 10
God.
goals that day, yeah, and I was
Wow.
made up for my mum, because like, she got to see Gerrard playing again and that, so I have been to some good ones.
Yeah, yeah. So for other people like who aren't as enthusiastic about football but are maybe trying to get into it, what are like routes that you'd recommend? Like, would you recommend just choosing a team or your local team, or what do you think's like the best route to get into football?
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm a big, like, sort of supporter, and it doesn't have to be your local team. If you have a team that, like, you like, I don't know, because you like one of their star players, or you like the manager, or anything like that, even the song they sing, there are people across the world who support Liverpool because they want to sing You'll Never Walk Alone, and that, like, just pick whoever you want to, try and watch a couple of the matches. If you like it and you get excited about it, then sound.
That song does my head in, you know. I don't know if it's just the inner Everton fan in me, but it really does me head in. Like they say, never for well too long. I hate it. It really does me head in.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but what do you think of like the idea of like fake fans? If you've heard that, so do you know people who sort of jump on the bandwagon
Me.
for stuff? People who jump on the bandwagon for stuff like the World Cup
Yeah.
or like the Champions League or stuff like that. What's your sort of perspective on that?
I kind of, I feel the same about like music and stuff like that when people do it. I think enjoy it when you want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
The World Cup's more exciting than every Liverpool match that's ever been played. So if you want to just enjoy it then go for it. It just means that more people are into it for a bit. I enjoyed it when we were in the World Cup because there was loads of people who don't, like Josh, who doesn't watch football that often. But I got to talk to him about it loads because he's watching it for a bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting hearing such a positive outlook on football when you can get really negative outlooks, like
Yeah.
especially when you get rivalries between teams. Like I remember going to like Derby Day and stuff like that because I've been like quite to like loads of derbies, and I remember kind of like being excited but also dreading it just in case of like what could happen.
Yeah.
And luckily I was fine every time because I was with my dad. But I remember one time when I went to Wembley and it was to see Everton play Liverpool, and I remember walking out of the ground and I remember just like holding my dad's hand. He was like, just hold my hand, and I was like, oh Jesus, like something could happen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that always like kind of scared me, and I think experiences like that are what can really put people off football.
And like unfortunately there's not a lot you can do about that. Like as I said, there are going to be bad people in it, but I think regulations, like law regulations and police and that, have got a little bit better. Like there's loads of there's been like some racist stuff going on in football recently, and I think it was Chelsea fans, sorry if it wasn't, I don't mean to offend anyone, but they like sang a racist song about one of Liverpool players, Mo Salah, and they've been banned from the Chelsea ground like straight away. So they're tending to like deal with the crap a little bit better nowadays. But I was scared when I used to go as a kid as well, just like of what could happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Even like walking through town on Derby Day, like because my dad would be like, "Yeah, put your Liverpool shirt on." And I'm like, "Oh, but what if the Everton fans see me?"
I wouldn't dream of going to town, like to Liverpool City Centre on Derby Day. It's horrible. It's just too busy.
Yeah.
So with football, it's a very community thing. So, like going to the pub with your friends and stuff like that.
That's
I'm
like what
blank.
I really love about it. Like, so I'm someone who loves being like part of, like feeling like I belong kind of thing. That's why I love going to concerts, because you're all there to see the same person, you're all singing the same songs, and I love it for the same reason. When you go to a match, you're all singing the same songs.
Exactly.
You're all there you're just part of something, and you feel like you're part of something a bit bigger, which is ridiculous because I know it's just a game, but when like the big matches are on and that, you think like, oh, everyone's all excited, and it's nice. I did used to go alone though. When I moved to Norwich, there was no one around me who supported Liverpool, no Scousers anywhere, and I used to go to the little Union pub on my own and sit and watch the match on my own because I didn't want to miss it.
It's respectable that you like still have like that commitment to it to do that.
Yeah, we we went to Spain last year, and there was like some Scouse family there, and the dad of the family, I think we might have been like talking about football, or he just heard us being Scouse, and he turned to Nick and Leon and said, like, oh, blue or red. He didn't say, he literally just turned to us and went blue or red, and they were like red. And then he started like asking them questions about football, and they both went like, oh, not really into it, don't know it. And I went, oh, I am though. And he just looked at me and turned around, and I was like,
oh wow,
like, that's because I'm a girl.
That's something that we haven't really touched on, is the sort of perspective of female fans being so different from male ones, because it's not something you expect, is it? It's a very masculine sport, so when women tend to speak up about it, they're kind of seen as like fake fans, or they're just doing it for attention. What do you think of like that sort of outlook at the minute?
Again, like, to me, it's no different. My mum, I think it's my mum and dad, like, my mum and dad are genuinely both as into it as each other, and like, my mum, I grew up living with my mum, so it was her that I'd sit and watch the match with and that. So to me, I've grown up in a world where there was no difference.
There was no gender divide between football. Yeah.
And I don't see why there would be, really. I guess, like, you're watching men play, like, so that could be like a tiny bit of it. But of course, the women can still like support it. It's just it's a bit annoying, like when people don't want to, like, that man in Spain just didn't want to talk to me about it, which is weird, but.
It's like preconceived notions of what men and women should enjoy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's in fact drinks. If you love a team, you should be able to enjoy it and talk about it and stuff
exactly.
like that.
I think it's devastating, like the whole women's football. So like when you turn on like BBC and the women are playing and like all the seats are empty, because like you can't really control the fact that like no one's buying tickets for it. So like I want it to be equal, but it's nobody's going to it.
Like, it's hard to generate interest, isn't it?
Yeah, because the public, for some reason, just enjoy the male matches more. And, like, there's nothing particularly, like, wrong with that, I guess. Like, it's just what people want to watch, but it must be a bit heartbreaking for them to just play in an empty stadium all the time. And
I think it's just time as well, like, how long each one's been about. Like, exactly, I don't know how long female football's been about, but I assume it's much less than male football, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's obviously, like we were saying before, about you support the team your dad support because their dad supported them and their dad did, and you're committed to this one team. Do you know what I mean? But when a female team comes out, it's kind of like, oh, it's like the fake one.
Yeah,
we don't talk about them.
Yeah, we just don't focus on them. It is getting like bigger though, I think. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I listen to a podcast every week about Liverpool, and it's just these guys talking about Liverpool and like what's happened in the week and that. And they've made a whole female branch of their podcast, and they talk about the women's football, and they've actually like got more people to go, and that there's been like a few more tickets sold and stuff. So as you say, I think like time will tell, but I don't think like it must be frustrating for the players, but I don't think it's like a sort of a huge issue. Do you know what I mean? It's just what people enjoy.
At least that option's there now, and it can only get bigger, really, can't it?
Yeah. And it is getting bigger.
Exactly, yeah.
Because like as I was saying, like my mum's like this like admin for all these Facebook pages, and like she's always getting those like stupid football arguments, but like she's proper hung up on it. Like so like she won't wear like red clothes and stuff like that. And like if Everton loses, she like dreads going to work next day because she's gonna get ripped into by like co-workers, and like she does it to her co-workers when they win, and it's mad. But yeah, like the gender thing. Like, because I'm not really that into it, but it's expected that, like, every lad is.
Yeah, I was going to
like,
say
people
that. It's
talk
the same the other
to
way
you
around.
like, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And, like, I feel like most of the IT crowd, like, the fake, like, it works.
Like, my little brother is not into football at all. Like, he doesn't care at all. He's into like theatre and stuff, bless him. And he got bullied, like properly bullied all the way through primary school because like
it happens.
He wasn't playing football and that. So it does the prejudice works the other way around as well.
I think luckily for me, when I was most into football was during like primary school. So I was in like under 10s team. I went to Everton games, so it kind of suited me then. But as I grew up, I found different avenues that I enjoy more, you know, like film and music and comics and stuff like that. And it just kind of sort of faded out. Like, I'm still, like, interested in it in, like, a passing sense. Like, I'll talk about it with my dad when I go home as much as I can. But it's just not something that buzzes me anymore. Like, what you were saying before about, like, men are expected to know about it. My worst experience is getting into taxis, especially in Liverpool, and they always turn around and they always go, oh, you're a red or a blue, and I have to say every time, I'm a blue, but I basically can't talk to you about it. And then we sit there in silence for about 20 minutes.
My experience with that is the opposite, because I look forward to it, because I'm like, oh yeah, I get to speak about it now.
I can't stand taxis.
Do you want to swap? That being said, though, when I do watch the football with like you or Leon, like when Liverpool is on, I genuinely do get invested though. So like it is intriguing. Like I do get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Like it is really exciting.
I think like
And
watching it with people who are excited about
Yeah.
it puts you in that like mood as
Definitely,
well, doesn't it?
yeah.
I have like a rule for myself, because so the negative side of it can be, and it was a bit like what you were saying about your mum, if Liverpool lost like the derby or playing Man U or whatever, my mum and dad would be in like genuine bad moods afterwards, and like sometimes I'd be out and I'd be like, oh, what's the score, because I don't want to go home if they're in bad moods. And so I have a rule to myself that I'll get really, really invested. You've seen it whilst I'm watching the match, and I'll shout at the screen and I'll swear and all of that. But as soon as the whistle's blown, regardless of the score, I don't let it like affect my mood afterwards, because that'd be like too far.
It's interesting that you just brought that up, because I was about to say, like, how invested do you get?
Yeah.
But as you just said, like, during the game, you're quite invested, but do you allow yourself to calm down afterwards?
I get like a minute, like I'll
Yeah.
take some deep breath if we've lost, and then just be like, right, doesn't matter, just a game. Like
And then is that always the case that you just fine about 10 minutes later?
genuinely, yeah. Like I just, because like in my head, I know it's just a game, like, and nothing important's gonna happen after it. You just gotta take the joy when it comes, and then ignore it when it's bad.
Because I remember, like, being as a kid and hearing my dad watching the Everton match downstairs, and I'd either hear a cheer or a lot of swearing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to go downstairs for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same
Even though
experience.
he's fine, essentially, he's just like a
Yeah.
bit annoyed because obviously Everton have lost. So
One of my best mates from school, like whenever Liverpool lost, he used to, you know who you are, he used to lock himself away in his room for the night
Oh
and
my
not speak to
God.
anyone. He'd come into school the next day fuming.
I used to have it a
Charlie.
bit like your mum, when because there were loads of Everton fans in school, and if Liverpool lost, I'd be a bit like, not scared, but like apprehensive going into school the next day, because you're gonna get shit all day.
Gonna get roasted,
Yeah, and
basically.
like I'm like, oh, I don't play for them. Like,
well, yeah,
I
I
don't
always
support
think
them. You know
that,
what I mean?
that-
Like,
that's one of the things that kind of frustrates me about it, because when your team wins, it's all good, and you say we won. You know what I mean? And when you lose, when your team loses, you say you lost, even though you've got no influence
Yeah.
whatsoever. I just find
I
it so
don't get that.
frustrating, and it doesn't help supporting a team like Everton, where you know they might lose more than they win.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I didn't do anything. I haven't done anything. Why are you roasting me for this? Very stressful.
yeah, I don't like that side of it at all, and I've always tried not to do it the other way
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Like I'll have a joke with people, like, because it is funny when we win the derby like 10 years on a row or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, but not actual beef. It's just ridiculous. Like, doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, so I think, like, as a closing note, based on, like, your experiences of football, what are, like, avenues that you'd recommend for people to go down to get into it? Would it be, like, go to the pub when it's on, or, like, find groups or something like that, listen to podcasts, or what would you say?
I think, like, if you've got any mates that are into it, as Kyle said, it kind of makes it a bit more exciting if you watch it with people who are into it. If you
I
just try
suppose-
and watch it on your own, it can be a bit, like, more boring.
I suppose it's kind of like a bonding experience as well, like it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
for you with your parents, and for me
Yeah.
with my dad. Like, that's my most, like, treasured memories of football, as being with my dad, so I kind of still, like, hold that quite close to me.
Yeah, and like going to the pub, as you said, that can be great. If you take a group of friends to the pub, like you've come with us sometimes when Liverpool's been on and you don't want to watch the match, but we're all sat there at the pub anyway.
talking
So
to
like
yous.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like that can be a fun way of doing it. But also the podcasts have really got me into it. I listen to can I give them a shout out on
Yeah, you
here?
can.
Yeah, go ahead. Knock yourself out.
If
I
they
like-
give us a shout out.
They follow me on Twitter, so maybe I'll be
Oh.
able to get them to.
Crossover episode soon.
I listen to the Red Men TV podcast, and that's like given me. I do it on my way to work, and I now love my bus journeys to work because I get to like listen to things about Liverpool all the time, and genuinely I know so much more about it now, which makes it more exciting to watch the match. Because like, so for example, I'm not very into rugby or cricket because when I'm watching it, don't really get what's happening. So
Yeah.
like that, so I'm not that excited about it. It's a lot easier to really get into it if you. I know obviously if they put the goal in the net, then they've scored, but know more about like the tactics whilst they're playing and that. Like I sit there sometimes and I'll go like, oh, he should have passed it there, and then the commentator will go, yeah, he should have made that pass then, and I'm like, yes, see, like. So that's another way, is like learning more about it so that you can get more into it as well.
Yeah, it does seem like knowledge of the sport is really key to enjoying it more.
Yeah,
Because,
I
like,
think so.
I know especially when I watch it now, I don't even know the players that play for Everton. Like, to me, Everton players are, like, Arteta and Tim Cahill and stuff
I'm
like
like
that.
that with Liverpool. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Steven
Just
Gerrard,
Steven
Torres,
Gerrard. He
Suarez.
doesn't play for Liverpool, does he? You know what I mean? But he does in my head, because that's Liverpool players.
Do you know what I should mention before we go as well, which actually did help me become more of a Liverpool fan, is I was friends with Rafa Benitez's daughter, and he like took me to like the training ground, and I got to meet like the older players and that. So like genuinely, obviously that helped, because like it was a massive exciting thing in my life and that. So
You can't really recommend people to be mates with Rafa Benitez's
yeah,
daughter, though,
of course.
can you?
But like that was a special thing for me that kind of.
A similar thing happened to me. The Liverpool team came to my primary school when I was
Oh
in
my
like
God.
year 2. So like that probably got me into Liverpool as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a bit brainwashing.
Yeah,
So
but
do you
it has
wanna-
caused me so much joy. So
Yeah.
I'm not.
Do you want to hear
bothered.
my story of my connection to it, seeing as you've done one? So when I used to go to the match, I used to be in the family enclosure at Goodison, and like they'd always choose someone to be the toffee girl who'd go around the ground
Oh,
before the
yeah.
game started and throw Everton mints into the ground, and they'd also choose a load of kids to carry the flag out that says like Everton on it, and I got
So
to
are
do
you the
that.
toffee girl?
Yeah. But I got to do that. I got to go into like the back and go onto the pitch before the game and stuff like that. It was good.
Oh.
It was fun. It was
Yeah.
nice.
Oh,
So I think on that sort of nice happy note of everyone enjoying football, we'll wrap it up there. So thanks as always to Kyle for being my co-host.
thank you, Philip.
Thank you very much to Kiayah for coming on and enlightening us about the world of football.
Thanks for listening.
If you have any passions yourself that you want us to talk about, feel free to leave them in the comments.
Or hit us up in the DMs.
Yeah, if you want to come on the podcast, we'll be more than happy to have you if you want to talk about your passion. But other than that, we'll see you next time.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.